Thank you so much for meeting us, sir. Despite your hectic schedule और हमारी postpone भी हुई है थोड़ी सी, तो are you overexerting your leg injury? Can you please tell me about that?
So the leg injury is the bullet wounds have all healed. The only thing is the nerve in my foot has been damaged.
Right.
So that means I still cannot. The nerve heals much slowly because of less blood supply in the nerve. So therefore, it's a very slow process. So at the moment, I still don't have full range of movement in my foot.
And it keeps flaring up. The swelling keeps flaring up.
I had a hit when I slipped at the Lahore High Court, and that's when I had more swelling. But it'll take time. It's a slow process.
So let's take a step back. It's been months since you miraculously survived that assassination attempt. So every time you step out in the open, you're defying all the caution. You're throwing the caution to the wind. So are you scared?
No, we as Muslims believe that when it's time for you to die, it's the will of Allah and no one can change that time. So that's our belief. But then we also are told by our Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, that you should take as much precaution as you can, then leave it to Allah. So I take precautions, which I never did before. It's still, there is a risk each time I step outside my house because the people who want me killed are very powerful in the sense that, if it's one of the head of your local ISI intelligence agency, this General Faisal Nasir, he's the one who has been not just one, two assassination attempts on me. So he's responsible. So they have the access to all the, both coercive power and access to all the intelligence information. So therefore, you have a very powerful enemy along with, the people in government. All of them are scared of me coming into power because all of them know that PTI is way ahead of every other party in all the surveys. So therefore, they are petrified of me coming into power, and that's why my life is in danger.
Sir, as a cricketing legend, had you ever thought that you would one day be at the center of the storm, of this biggest political storm that Pakistan has ever seen, conservatively speaking? Or did you ever think about it? And if not, what do you think now? How are you going to survive this? It's been 1 year and there millions are there. Millions of your supporters are there, but your enemy is still not in the mood to let go of the fight.
Did I know when I was playing cricket I would be in this situation? Of course not. Life doesn't work like this. You don't plan the details of your future. You can't plan it because, there's a very clear verse in the Quran. You make one plan, Allah makes the other one, and there's only one that works. So all my life, this has been the situation. I have planned one thing, and life has taken me into another direction. But then, once you decide to do something, in my life, once I decide to do something, then I never think of the consequences. So I think that whatever it takes, I will achieve this goal, even if I have to lose my life.
Once a cricketer, always a cricketer.
No, in cricket, you didn't think of losing your life. At the worst, you thought of getting injured. But in this, where you have a high-stake game with big mafias who have so much at stake to lose if I win. So therefore, your life is in danger. But the fact is, the fear of death should not deter you from what the objective is, which is rule of law and justice in Pakistan, which is to have a just society in Pakistan, a just and humane society.
So it is only a matter of time that the state would be forced to have elections, hold polls. The tea leaves are saying odds are definitely in your favor. The scale of the victory is yet to be seen, but every survey says that the public opinion lies in your favor. Once that happens, once you form the government, would you be forming the government using this old formula, or what are the plans on the blackboard?
Firstly, given the current economic and actually political crisis in Pakistan, there would not be much point in forming government if you do not come with a strong majority. And by a strong majority, I mean a government that is not lame duck like we were last time, that is not dependent on allies and on a fragile majority. A government that has strength to conduct a massive reform program. Pakistan needs reforms in almost every sphere, but most of all in establishing rule of law. And that is really the beginning. If once you have a justice or a rule of law where you bring everyone under the law, that is the basis of the beginning of a civilized and prosperous society. Everything else follows from there. Prosperity follows afterwards. You know, democracy, freedom, all follow from rule of law. That is the basis of a society, a civilized society. And that is what we never had. We've always had might is right. So either it's a military dictator who's above law, or you have these two family mafias who always want to have above law, that even if they commit crimes and corruption, they still should be above law. So our problem is the reason why Pakistan has not prospered and we are becoming a failed state is because we have the law of the jungle here.
Sir, the numbers may happen, but in the last year, you've repeatedly mentioned that you were not allowed to govern despite reaching the hot seat. So, how are you going to deal with that obstacle, quote unquote?
We
obstacle?
had the biggest problem we had was a weak government because it was a coalition government. Secondly, we were completely dependent, and the ex-army chief General Bajwa ensured we were dependent on him because he made sure we could not get strong enough. You know, he controlled the election commission. He appointed the election. The election commission was controlled by him. NAB was controlled by him. The media, now we understand that he was the one who started the media campaigns against us. So he ensured we were weak. So because we were weak, so that was the first problem. We were weak and we could not implement the sort of reforms we wanted. Most importantly, we couldn't bring rule of law because he controlled NAB. And because he controlled NAB, he ensured that the powerful crooks would not get convicted. And so he was completely in touch with all the powerful mafias. And he never allowed us to sort of bring them under the rule of law. That, in a nutshell, that was the problem we faced. And had I known when I started, when my government in 2018, I would have gone for re-elections. I would not have taken government because, but in the beginning we thought, we were all on one page, but we didn't realize he was all the trying to undermine us. Afterwards, we realized that.
So, a country is just as strong as its print on the global map. You believe that in your last stint, you repeatedly tried to form bridges, to cement new bridges, and to repair the old ones. If election 2023/2024 happens and Imran Khan is in Islamabad again, how would Imran Khan aim to pursue relations with the immediate neighborhood and the Muslim bloc?
Look, the problem is when you become part of blocs, you alienate all the other people who are not in the bloc. And India, I have always maintained, has one of the best foreign policies. India has a very, very dignified policy that, gives them respect in the world because it is an independent foreign policy. They've been non-aligned during the Cold War, and then subsequently they have relationship with everyone. And classic was that they are part of the Quad with the United States, and yet they were importing cheap oil from Russia during the Ukraine war. So that's for me, that is what foreign policy Pakistan should have.
So,
Well,
talking about the Ukraine war, at what point did you believe that the Russian trip was a mistake?
I never thought it was a mistake. It was just, how were we supposed to know that when I arrived there would be, Russia would walk into Ukraine? Of course, had I known, I would have delayed the trip. But as it happened, I wasn't supposed to know. If President Putin had consulted me, I might have delayed my, trip.
Or at least taken a detour.
Since he didn't, I mean, we woke up fighting out in the morning. The Russian forces had moved into Ukraine.
Sir, you mentioned India, and a few days ago, you made a very strong case for Pakistan's foreign policy, despite it coming from a political rival. You stood for Pakistan's case against the Indian diatribe. And why did you do that? Bilawal Bhutto did not belong to People's PTI. He came from People's Party.
Well, firstly, let me tell you that it was very foolish of him to go to India. I mean, he achieved nothing from there except humiliation. And, he's been running around like a headless chicken all over the world. I don't know what he has achieved so far, but I know he's probably spent millions of dollars on these aimless trips, wasted trips. Because in my time, every trip before that was we evaluated. When we left, when I did a trip or the foreign minister, we worked out what do we gain from that trip? What does Pakistan gain from that trip? Otherwise, country is already bankrupt. We are short of dollars. Why would you go to a trip where, firstly, he had nothing? India refuses to come to Pakistan for the Asia Cup. India refuses on any trip in Pakistan, they refuse to come. I mean, any SEO, any conference we have, India has point blank refused. So why was this need for Pakistan to rush to India? Number one mistake.
That's right.
Number two, did he evaluate that what were the pluses and minuses of the country? Did he think that he's such a good-looking boy that they would all appreciate him so much that he would win them over? What did he think he was going to achieve there? Because the Indian hostility was clear. He had made remarks against Modi in New York, and he should have expected that they were not going to receive him very well there. So secondly, it still does not absolve the Indian foreign minister for his, I thought it was disgraceful the way he humiliated Bilawal. This is against all etiquette of hospitality. When someone is hosting a conference, you do not treat your guests the way he did. And I thought it was very condemnable. I just think that this was, it just reeked of arrogance, misplaced arrogance. They feel that Pakistan is very weak, and therefore, that's why he passed these disgraceful comments.
Sir, we have a hostile East, and our neighbor on the West, our neighborhood on the West, does not seem to either care for our troubles or include us in their breakthroughs. A phenomenal bridge was cemented in Iran, and Pakistan did not seem to have any clue about it. Had you been in power, how would you have pursued this phenomenal, groundbreaking, revolutionary friendship between Iran and Saudi Arabia and reap it to our benefit?
Well, I tried my best to, decrease the hostilities between Iran and Saudi Arabia. In fact, on instructions, I met Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and then he asked me to help decrease the hostilities. So then I went to Iran, and from Iran again I went back to Saudi Arabia, and we, with a proposal of decreasing getting understanding to finish the Yemen war. Secondly, I tried my best because there was hostility between Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Again, tried my level best to decrease the hostility and sort of get them together. But I'm so, as a Pakistani, I'm so pleased that Saudi Arabia has now taken an initiative, and not only have they mended fences with Iran, but also with Turkey. I think this is one of the best news for the whole region. And now, prospects of peace in Yemen. So this is, I must say, I'm really the diplomacy of Prince Mohammed bin Salman. I have to commend that he's moving in the right direction, because Saudi Arabia can actually become a pivot where they can just get the whole region together, which means there will be more trade between the regions, which means there will be prosperity in the region. Look at the European Union, by trading together, their standard of living has gone up. And look at us. We have a huge problem on our east. We can't trade with them. But then we've hardly any trade with the rest of the countries around us.
Sir, when you were Prime Minister, you tried and tried and tried to have a collaboration with Turkey. There were economic projects, there were cultural linkages. Nothing of the sort has been on the cards for now. How do you believe Pakistan should collaborate with Turkey? They have many, 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 many similarities, but nothing substantial has ever happened. As in terms of economic collaboration, in terms of trade linkages, in terms of societal linkages. So, how do you see that?
Well, I had a very good relationship with President Erdogan, and we, not just we wanted to improve our trade relationship, but then we also wanted to improve our cultural relationship. So I got him, because of him, I got this TV drama, which is Ertugrul.
Sir, my 3-year-old is a big fan. All we do in our house all day are sword fights, and she rides pillow horses, and that's we have you to thank for that. Thank you so much. But
So the reason was different. The reason was that our youth is bombarded with Western movies, which take them away from their culture. Our young people. And I knew the reasoning behind Ertugrul, because I think the feeling in Turkey is that the people are getting westernized and they are moving away from their own culture and don't know the rich heritage of Turkey. So we collab in this. There was this collaboration that we wanted now to develop films. One of them was about this freedom fighter who fought in Turkey, went from Pakistan. And the idea was to have a film between Pakistan and Turkey, the linkages during the Khilafat movement. And also, then Mahathir Mohammed Erdogan and, we had a meeting. And we wanted all three nations to collaborate in developing, our own history, the Muslim history, the Islamic history. And so this was in the early stages when Mahathir Mohammed was, his government went. And then, just as we were developing these linkages, our government went. So these linkages take time to develop. You establish contact, then you set up a structure, then they start collaborating. But I don't know what happened to this project. It seemed a great project of this man going. It was a true story. It was
I think it bit dust.
I don't know what happened since then. But there was a collaboration between, we got the same media house that produces Ertugrul. They came over, we had a meeting here with our people. But then I don't know what happened after that.
There are general polls happening in Turkey right now. Turkey is in election season. So would you give a message to the Turkish people regarding you have cultivated such a nice relationship with President Erdogan and you are in awe of his policies? So what would you say to them?
Well, look, first of all, I have to state that electing the head of state is the sole prerogative of the people of that country. So they have, it's what they want, it's what their preference is. But I have to say that for me, President Erdogan is one of the true statesmen of the Muslim world. Because, when Kashmir, all the oppression was going on in Kashmir, it still is. There were only three heads of countries that spoke out, and one of them was President Erdogan. Others just would not even utter a word against India. So he's always stood up for causes, represents the Muslim world. And, we have people here have a great respect for him, including me.
That's right, sir. May the odds be in the best man's favor there.
I think he will win. They're very well organized. The party is it's a grassroots party.
That's right.
You can't beat a party like that.
That's
I saw him coming out of when he went to hospital. And the reception he got, it's incredible.
He has commanded a big popularity there, that's right. Sir, when it comes to China, China is one of the biggest economic facilitators of Pakistan. China has stood by us. We all love to believe that our friendship with China is strongest as ever, strongest than ever. But Chinese foreign minister comes here and for the lack of crass words, he asks us to focus on the domestic stability. That plays a lot in your favor. Did you think that was a Hail Mary pass given to you?
Any sensible person, whether it's Pakistani or outside Pakistan, if you ask them, how will you now, the mess Pakistan is in it, how are you going to get Pakistan out of the mess? The first thing they will say is hold elections, because elections will bring political stability. And political, economic stability comes after political stability. This is just, any sensible man you ask will say this, except these criminals who are worried about their stolen wealth, the NRO. And I'm afraid they're handlers who are worried about losing their power. That's all. Otherwise, everyone in Pakistan knows that without holding elections, you will not have political stability.
Sir, what do you think about the de-dollarization spree that is taking hold in different parts of the world?
Well, I think all this, world changes. Nothing is permanent. The only permanent thing in the world is change. And I see a change taking place because you're seeing other blocks, China emerging as a giant, an economic giant. And, because of the Ukraine war, you see Russia moving in much closer to China than ever. So I think in future, you will see, the old power system is going to shift as it has always in history. It always does in history.
So let's quantify. We have talked a lot about how big of a problem Afghan refugee problem is. How big of it is. The scale is enormous. We are hosting the world's second largest refugee population from a country whose administration is in no mood to help us against an existential threat. Their foreign minister came, nothing substantial has been achieved. Give me 3 steps. Give me 3 concrete steps in which we can not take care of, but at least take a right step in the direction towards resolving this mess.
Actually, with this new Afghan government, it should have been the easiest thing to develop a powerful relationship with them. We were the closest to them. And we already, when the change took place, already we were moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, our government went. And this government, imagine, Bilawal has been all over the world. He's still not gone to Afghanistan. One reason is that he might not come back. But let's not talk about that. Why would he, the most important country for us is Afghanistan. 2,500 kilometer border with them. Not just Afghan refugees, but Afghanistan is a future lifeline to Central Asia. That's where we were working on trade deals. We were talking about a railway from Uzbekistan all the way through Afghanistan to Pakistan, which would completely change, the amount of trade between us and Central Asia. It'd be a huge populations and their goods coming down to the Indian Ocean. So we had worked all that. And why would they not want to develop a proper relationship with Afghanistan because of fear of offending America? This is it. One point. Yet our future lies in our own area. We need good relationship with Iran. with Afghanistan, with Central Asian countries, and hopefully one day when a sensible government arrives in India, with India. Because, regional trade is one of the most important ways of bringing prosperity. So therefore, it's amazing because of fear of offending the US. Uh, uh, he has spent millions of dollars all over the world running around, and yet he's not been to Afghanistan.
So you do talk a lot about cultivating a relationship with Afghanistan, but even you tread cautiously when you talk about the situation there, the human rights situation there, the women empowerment situation there, the lack of women empowerment situation there.
Look, there is a problem. The Western countries have latched on one thing that women are not empowered in Afghanistan. That's just one thing. But the fact is, there's peace in Afghanistan after 40 years. Now, that's the most important thing. If you ask the people of Afghanistan, the one thing they will say is peace, because they've been 40 years of conflict. But the Western countries don't realize this. I mean, they're not bothered that there's finally stability. To Pakistan, it matters. Because if there's instability in Afghanistan, it overflows into Pakistan with a 2,500 kilometer border. I mean, we had 3 groups operating from Afghanistan into Pakistan, TTP. We had ISIL. We had Baloch separatists. Now we don't. So at least, for us, it should be the best thing that finally there is peace in Afghanistan and we have a government that responds. Previously, the previous governments were actually helping the insurgency within Pakistan through Afghanistan. They were pro-India. So just because the US is upset, we should be thinking about our future.
That's a lot to unpack, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.